The wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard. And the reason is because a lot of people didn't allow their ideas to come to fruition simply down to perfection. In this video, Zaytoven actually talks about how he was able to make life-changing hits straight from the studio and on the laptop, raw files into the clubs and eventually into the radio. Let's get into it.
You engineered all the sessions.
Did every session.
Did you mix the sessions too, or you sent them to the mix?
Man, this stuff went straight from this computer to the radio. I didn't know how to mix, master, none of that.
Was that not trying to depend on nobody, or was it just like, man,
it's
draw?
It's just us being impatient. Like, we made the song, here, play it. If you got it in the club and y'all playing it already, and then the radio gonna play it, they get it all from the same place.
But did you go to a club and hear something or hear on the radio and be like, damn, I gotta change that? You just left it.
That's the great thing about working with guys like Gucci and Juice and all the guys I was working with. They heard it just the way I heard it. Like, it might be some imperfection, but they got it now. They playing it.
That's the magic.
Yeah.
You engineered all the sessions.
Did it.
So as you can see, we have a living legend telling us directly that, look, he was able to actually change the game direct from his computer. He was not only a producer, I believe he was talking about how he came from church, learned how to play the keyboard, eventually started working with people like Gucci Mane, so on and so forth. But in saying that, he was able to take his talents and bootstrap absolutely everything. A lot of people on the vibe are like, oh, I got this amazing idea, but I can't execute it without this specific person being there. I can't do it without this producer, so on and so forth. But this guy was able to take on the full responsibility of everything that needed to be had in the studio. And that is the reason as to why, again, hip-hop changed forever. Now, what you gotta realize that majority of the big hits that we actually have right now were actually created from imperfect environments. Like I said in the previous video that I did, a lot of hits were made in a bedroom. You know, we had the Calvin Harris, for example. He was able to create his first ever album from the comfort of his bedroom. And whenever you go to different genres, the exact same thing continues to happen time and time again. So the question is, what is actually stopping you from getting started? In fact, I'll tell you guys a brief story. I remember when I first got into production and engineering, it was simply because I remember I was trying to actually sell a beat to someone, right? So imagine I was a young producer around like 16 or so, and an artist actually shouted at me saying, okay, cool, I want to purchase the beat off of you. But back then, I didn't actually realize that in this music game, people don't stick to their word. It is what it is. So they can say on day one, yeah, I want to purchase the item, but then by the time it gets to even day two, they're just like, oh, nah, bro, on second thought. Or they might even just ghost you. Do you know what I'm saying? So I remember I was young, naive, and I got in my emotions. So what ended up happening was like, you know what? F this guy, I'm just going to hop on the beat myself. And eventually I actually went from being solely a producer into having my whole artist phase. And every single producer or engineer has that phase where, just like how there was a video where it was talking about every engineer is a producer. I think it was Jason Joshua that actually said that. Every engineer, when they're out of the studio, they actually go home and they wish that they were able to make beats. Or in fact, they're just like, you know what, I can make these beats. So they spend their extra time just making beats, etc. Same way every producer has had an artist phase as well, where we've taken our beats, we've hopped in them, and we're just like, you know what, we're going to prove these guys right that we can do ourselves. Now, what ended up happening was that, yeah, I made a couple songs, I actually released a few of them. And when I listen back to them, it's kind of cringy. But when I first recorded myself, I was like, bro, why do I sound like this? Like, I used to sing in church and stuff like that, and I know that I'm not the best singer in the entire world, but back then I could actually hold a note, like I could actually sing. Do you get it? So I was like, bro, like, why is it coming out like this on the computer? When I'm singing it out, it's amazing, but when I'm singing on the computer, it's coming out sounding mad. And I had to eventually teach myself how to learn how to engineer. I went on YouTube, was listening and watching and spending hours of my life diving deep into tutorials and breakdowns and things like that. Then eventually I learned what EQ was, I learned what a compressor was, I learned what a multiband was, etc. Then how to apply it to my vocal. Eventually, I started going to different sessions, etc. But even back then, I didn't claim I was an engineer. I knew how to record my vocals, but I couldn't record anyone else's vocals. Fast forward to a couple years later, I get invited to a producer camp. And in that producer camp, obviously the producers are just doing their thing. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Everyone's having a great time and making crazy beats as well. Then fast forward to, I believe, the next week, the guys that ran the producer camp, they said, you know what? Let's actually invite some artists down to record them over the beats you guys have just created, which is an amazing, productive idea. Only thing is, they then asked this question: who in the room can engineer? And when I tell you, everyone looked at themselves like, It was peak, I can't lie. But then, because no one else stepped up, I was just like, you know what? Yeah, like I can record myself and stuff like that. And it was like, oh yeah, let's hear some of the stuff you've done. I played them some of my demos. I was like, yeah, bro, you're actually decent. Next day, I was stuck in with a couple artists. I was thrown into the deep end straight away. And luckily, because I had put in the time, I put in the 10,000 hours, I was able to record them to a decent level. So can't necessarily complain, because that actually started the journey of me going full-time into music and actually being able to engineer, so on and so forth. So a lot of people don't realize that the greats, they were once in our position. They're once in your position that's even watching this video right now, where maybe they didn't know how to record, they didn't know how to engineer, they didn't know how to do all the types of things that we say or want to actually become. But they started. Do you know what I mean? They started, and even when they were trash, they pushed past that period of actually the learning curve, you know, and pushing past the period of not knowing what you're doing and embarrassing yourself and acting and looking a fool. Then eventually you got to a point where people started appreciating their work because they had mastered their craft. So it's a simple video. Don't want to take too much of you guys' time, but the simple message of this video is imperfection sometimes breeds that perfection. Make sure to follow this channel because I always go into music insights like this. I tend to react to music greats. We cover topics such as music marketing, music business, production, sound engineering, anything around music, because I'm a music fan and also a music producer. So if you're into topics like that, make sure to follow this page and I'll make sure to see you guys tomorrow.